Hello and welcome to Stylish Chats with Creatives. Today on the podcast, I'm chatting to Jonny Wilson. Jonny is a photographer and based in Leeds, and we actually met because I did a call out on LinkedIn to do a test shoot, and you responded. I think we've been connected for a while on there.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen all your like beautiful watch pictures, and just this keen interest of like detail, finer detail is insane.
Yeah, for sure. It's just something I've always wanted to kind of like focus on with just the kind of unseen world of bits and bobs around the place. I think watches is definitely something that have a lot of detail in, and people don't realize it. So when you kind of look at my photos, you kind of feel the work that's gone into them and the little details that the designers put in, but you might not necessarily see if it's just on somebody else's wrist. So
yeah,
they're
really cool. So how did you get into doing jewelry photography? Because I feel like it's quite watch photography is quite a niche.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always had like this fascination with watches. I'd say I kind of remember as a kid, whenever you walk past a watch shop, I'd always kind of like, you know, let go of my mum's hand and go and to look at them. So there's always been this interest. And then on my gap year, I ended up working at H. Samuels for a year, which was great. I learned a lot about watches there, but I wanted a bit more of a selling role. So when I went to university, I got to transfer to Ernest Jones, which is the same company. And that was a bit more of a selling job. So you'd kind of sit down with the client a bit more. And with that, you had to know about the watches more. So you had to do courses and learn about them and learn about the brands and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
So I kind of focused on my favorite brand at the time, which is Breitling. That's kind of what I learned and what I sold. I just hung around that area of the shop because that's what I wanted to work with. And yeah, it was just so fascinating learning about how like the watches worked in a mechanical way, and just kind of talking to people who are also passionate about watches. And when they come in to buy them, you'd sit down for like an hour or two, probably at least. And at the end, hopefully they'd walk out with a watch that you sold them. But yeah, that's kind of where the interest grew into more of a hobby for me. And then while I was selling watches, everyone always used to kind of ask, like, why are they so expensive? And I wanted to kind of show them the movement inside the watch, but you can't see it because it's covered with a face and a metal back and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of value inside the watch that people can't see. So I had this idea of an exploded watch movement. So that was in my first year of university. And then it was actually my final major project at university to produce some images like that. I finally had the techniques I needed to do it. I'd thought about it for 2 years or 2 and a bit years. And I had made contacts with people in Birmingham. And so I just kind of was able to get a hold of some movements. I took them apart at my studio, obviously, because I'd learned how they worked. I can't put them back together, but I can take them apart. So I did that, photographed each part individually, photoshopped it together, and I printed them out like 1.5 meters tall then. So I took something so small, and again, to show people the detail.
Yeah.
And blew it up massive. So I had 2 huge prints that were nearly the size of me.
That's insane.
It was really cool. It was cool.
That's a really big print, like 1.5 meters. It's really tall.
It was fun. I got them printed at uni, and then I took them to a framer's, and then I realised once they were framed, I couldn't put them in my car because they'd be too long. So my mum very kindly drove down with her big car, put them in that, and we got into university. But so no, it was big. So I just kind of wanted to splash out. I was like, part of it was me showing everything I'd learned during university. The other part was a little bit showing off. So so I just wanted to kind of like make it big when people saw it at my final project show.
Yeah, so I think that's the one place to show off, right? As well,
exactly.
Like you've got like
got to stand out somehow.
Yeah. So how was your uni experience? Did you enjoy it?
I loved uni. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I learned a lot by just spending time in the studio, not necessarily being taught at lectures and all this sort of stuff, but just having 3 years to play around in the studio was so valuable to me. And then also I just met so many people at university, and the contacts I made there are still trickling down into jobs today.
Oh, that's cool.
So, I mean, there have been jobs that I've done over the past year, and one that's come in possibly over the past week or so, which came from contacts I made at university. who have then introduced me to people who've introduced me to people, and it's just trickled down like that. But there is a very defined line for me back to university with this job. So
that's cool, because I
I
think not many people that I've spoken to anyway have had that.
Right. Okay.
So it's like that's quite an interesting like side of it, that you can get that trickle down.
Yeah, for sure.
And like it is there for the taking.
Yeah, I don't know where I'd be without uni. I don't know what kind of photographer I'd be. I mean, I lived in the jewellery quarter at Birmingham.
Oh, nice.
So there was that kind of atmosphere everywhere where I lived. So it's just everything to do with uni kind of molded me to be this photographer I am today, for sure. I don't know what kind of photographer I'd be otherwise. I might still be doing watches, but I don't know if I'd be where I am today. I might be somewhere different, but yeah.
So where did this love of photography come from? Did it come from like a young age?
Yeah. So when it would have been when I was 11, I asked for a camera for my birthday. And my parents very kindly gave it to me a couple of months early so I could go on holiday with it to America.
Oh, nice.
And we've spent 3 weeks in America, around like California and Yosemite. And I just remember falling in love with photography there, like instantly. Learning about Ansel Adams around Yosemite, and all I remember about the holiday is my camera, but I have so many photos from it. So it's funny because I took like 3,000 photos on it when I was 11 in 3 weeks, which I thought was quite a lot then. Yeah. And now I'd do that in a couple of days here.
Yeah. But like when you're 11 and you've just got a camera, that's quite a lot.
It was quite a lot. So it was amazing. So it's just kind of grown from there, really. And, you just kind of build up kit. I think if you look at any picture on me, basically on Facebook, from that age to leaving school, I always have a camera in my hand. It was like attached to me. And I think everybody around me knew I wanted to be a photographer before I kind of admitted it to myself.
Yeah.
Which is why I took a gap year, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Well, I actually wanted to be a doctor, but that wasn't like on the cards for me. So
yeah. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I wanted to be a vet.
That's where mine started as well. I remember. Yeah. So, but I just took a gap year, and I actually went to a couple of universities to look around just to see if I wanted to go to university. And the one actually that made me realise this is amazing was Falmouth University. That was the first one that I kind of went to, and they had a couple of courses that I was interested in. One was like a journalism photography one, and then one was, what was it called, like natural history and marine, which is where you learn like scuba diving and photography underwater and stuff, which sounded really cool. But I just realised at the time I didn't really know which photographer I wanted to be, and I didn't want to kind of pigeonhole myself too much on that kind of area. So I went to Birmingham City University, which kind of had a bit more of a broad range, and I kind of preferred the facilities anyway, and it was closer to home instead of like a 7-hour drive. It was, well, unless the M6 was bad. I did actually have it where it was nearly 7 hours back to Cheshire, but it was only a couple of hours away. Really. So Birmingham was good. It was a great city. The university I went to, which was Birmingham City University, not University of Birmingham, the facilities was just amazing. So I wouldn't change it at all. Yeah,
that's really interesting you say about Falmouth as well, because that was somewhere I looked at.
Oh, really?
And then I chose not to go in the end.
Yeah.
But it was such a nice,
it's a really cool uni.
Yeah, I don't think I actually went. I think we were just like looking online and stuff, and I was like, this looks really cool. It looks like right up my street. Yeah. But I don't think there was the right course that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I just opted out. Yeah. Like, just thought, fuck it.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that you chose somewhere that had a more kind of open-ended, it wasn't as niche.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually went in thinking I was going to come out as a fashion photographer. I actually kind of changed because when you're at uni, you kind of get people to do things for free for you, like your friends and your mates and all this other stuff. And people just drop out on your last second. Even if you book the studio, they'd just be like, oh, I can't come today, or they won't even tell you. So I didn't want to put my degree in the hands of other people turning up. Yeah. So I went to product because I could get hold of the product. Yeah. And take it in myself. So it kind of made a bit more sense to me in terms of lighting anyway. So
I think as well, to niche out in product photography straight off the bat, I think is quite unusual. I think often people go into the fashion side first, end up doing more still life.
Right.
And then end up heading more towards product.
Yeah. I don't think there was another product photographer in my year, thinking about it.
Yeah. Because I think there's kind of this, I don't know, glory of being a fashion photographer, and actually like it's really hard. It's really hard to get into. It's quite a competitive space, and you might just be doing, I say just, but you might just be doing e-com work, which isn't as creative. You're kind of given a style guide, shoot like this. The lights are probably already set up for you. You know, it's not as creative as having product and kind of being let loose.
Yeah, for sure. I do find that to kind of get the products, and the client will be like, can we have e-com and then just like some creative stuff kind of in this style? And you are kind of, like say, let loose to do whatever you want, which is, it is nice. But I don't know how the fashion industry is, so you probably know more about that than me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just on the still life side now, so it's easier, I think.
Yeah.
There's not art directors and stuff, unless it's creative still life. It's mostly just you and a photographer and maybe like a producer just checking that you've got everything you need and stuff. Right. So yeah, there's probably there's less people for sure, because you're not got a makeup artist, model, art director, maybe client. Yeah. Clients really sometimes aren't that bothered about e-com still life. They're like, it's fine. Like, you're good. It's on a mannequin. Cool. Yeah, it looks fine. Yeah. But yeah, it's the more creative side, or like the interior side is more involved. There's more people involved. Yeah. But it must be quite nice to have that creativity left to you as well.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It's probably weird to say, but I actually really struggle with creative ideas. If someone gives me an idea and say, like, we like this, I can do it. I can replicate lighting setups. I can look at what's going on in the photo. I can do that. But actually coming up with the ideas is really difficult. I don't know if it's always been like that, but there was a tutor at uni he once looked at some work of mine and said, "You're really good, Jonny. You're just not creative."
Wow.
And that has really stuck with me.
What a burn.
And it's really, really stuck with me. I mean, I just remember him saying it, and like, yeah, it was weird, but I kind of definitely rely on other people to come up with the ideas for me. I really need that. And it's weird because I think it's probably a bit of an odd thing to say as a creative person or someone producing creative images. But
I don't know, because it is like really tiring. Yeah. Like, I find it really like, especially if clients are like, oh, I want this, and then they don't want it quite replicated. They want it like, they just want a hint of something and then a hint of something else. And then it's really hard to think and be like, right, okay, so they want a bit of that, a bit of that. How's that going to fit in my shot? How my product going to fit in there? How are we going to light this? How's this going to look in here? And then actually get the product on set, start to do it, and it might look shit. Yeah. And then you're like, great, this was now my idea, and now it doesn't look great. Yeah. Like, it's really hard. I find it really hard to do as well.
Yeah. Like, it's just an odd thing to try and like do. And I think I don't think it's talked about much in the creative industry about how hard the creative ideas actually are, because everything's been done before.
That's what I was just going to say.
And like, if you do something, and even if you don't see someone else having done something similar before, someone can always tie links to, oh, this was like, you know, X, Y, and Z's work, or, you know, and you're like, well, I didn't see that before I did it. So it was kind of like, it was my idea, but someone's just done it before. So it's really hard to kind of come up with original ideas.
Yeah, massively. Even like when we were testing the other month, and it was my Pinterest board is like full of ideas of kind of things I wanted to do. Yeah. And no doubt what we produced is probably a little bit similar to some of those ideas that were on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have to draw inspiration from somewhere. Yeah. I remember seeing a TV program on advertising, and it was like two marketers or advertisers like getting a black cab around London. And they came up with this idea, and the camera guy had like taken shots of like everything they'd seen. They came up with this idea, and it was like, I don't know, a polar bear and like something else. And they were like, look back at the footage, you're like, yeah, you saw a polar bear and you saw this. Like, of course, that's where your brain's going to go, because that's how we work. Yeah, for sure. But it is hard to think outside the box, especially if you're under a time constraint of working with a client. Yeah, for sure. Like, that's way more different than having like a test in play day.
To do whatever I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. I like it when people give me strict parameters.
Yeah, same.
Just like, this is what we want. Yeah. Kind of lighting is like this, hard, soft, you know, coming in from the back or whatever. I like that because I know that when I'm working, the client's going to be happy with it. But when you kind of like left open to do whatever you want. Yeah. Even if you checked with the client before, there's always this party that goes, they might not like this. Yeah. And I don't really like working like that. If they give me strict parameters with nice brief that's long, I really like that. I think the worst brief I've ever had was an email which was said something like this, and they attached 3 photos to it.
Oh God.
And I was like, I need more than that. I can't just go off 3 photos that don't even relate to your products anyway. What do you want me to do?
What part of each picture do you like?
Exactly.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
I think like managing clients' expectations is quite hard.
Yeah.
Like even on set, I've been on set before, and I've mentioned it on the podcast before, where the client went, "There's something just not right," and I just said, "But what is it? Do you want the change in lighting? Do you want a Christmas tree? Do you want a chair? Do you want a shelf? Tell me what you want and I'll do it."
Yeah.
Because you're also then limited by the amount of shots that you have to do, especially if it's like a big client and there's like 4 or 5 sets and you've all got to get 6 shots done and stuff, and, you know, things are cooking and whatever else. And she was like flummoxed that I'd like asked her, and I was like, well, what do you want?
You said it.
You said it. And like, I love descriptive words, but like just to kind of waft a hand and be like, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
That's not really helpful.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, same as you with that brief where you get 3 pictures, like, great, but like, at least circle what part you like.
Yeah.
Or like mention
something.
like,
just like,
yeah,
anything.
Because you can't just replicate, be like, oh, well, I'll put this product, I'll do it exactly the same. And then you're like, oh, it didn't look right.
Yeah. I had one brief where someone had given me the images and they were actually on set with me, which I actually really like usually, but they just wanted me to like straight up recreate a shot, and just like the lighting in the background was kind of this swish of lighting, and I was just like, I can't just steal someone else's idea. It has to be changed ever so slightly. And they're like, no, we want this. And I eventually had to like Photoshop my own kind of swishing, because I couldn't do it on set at the time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't expect them to want it exactly as it had been. So I kind of edited it afterwards, just with Photoshop brushes and stuff, but I wasn't happy with sending it off.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my portfolio or not, because I was just like, I'm not quite happy with how that went. So.
And sometimes that's really hard as well, is like managing your own expectations when clients are like, I want this.
Yeah.
You always have to like shut your ego off and be like, okay, you want it, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to look great.
Yeah.
I've voiced my opinion, but at the end of the day, you're paying.
Exactly.
You can have it.
Yeah.
But like, that's really hard to let go of and just kind of groan a bit.
Yeah, you kind of think like, you know, you're putting all this work into whatever you're doing and you want to be able to show it off and be proud of it and put it on your socials. And, you know, and if someone's just saying like something that you don't want quite the way you want it or you think it should be, then it's just kind of puts this like, it's almost sour taste to it. And you just like, I don't really want to put that out anymore. So there's lots of work that I do and I haven't shared because I don't know, it just doesn't quite sit within my portfolio that I want to put out there. But I'm also really just bad at posting in general, so sometimes it's not because of that. But
I think you're right though, because there's a lot of things that like I don't post about. I don't post the e-com shots I do because they're quite boring.
I never post on e-com. When I set up the studio, I actually set up my website for this studio space and moved all the e-com stuff off my website and put it on that as a kind of, if anybody finds it by chance, great, it's there, or I can like link people to it. But I was so excited to remove the e-com stuff from my website. I just thought it just brought down the level of my other work. Having it on my site, even though it's on a different page, someone has to click through, just having e-com at the top, it kind of just brought me down as a photographer ever so slightly. So getting it off was good. I
do think with e-com stuff, like my website's not quite the same as yours. So like, it's not as broken up, but some people ask me for e-com stuff and I just send them a PDF.
Yeah.
And like, here's my other creative stuff. But I think the expectation with producers and clients now is that like you flaunt off the creative side, but most people can do e-com anyway. Yeah. If you can shoot something really nice, like a watch, you're going to be fine with a mannequin. Like it's fine. Exactly. And I think that's that's how I've found the expectation to be. And I don't think e-com's like shameful as such, but like it can be really boring. Yeah. Especially if you're like day in, day out. Yeah. You're like, my creative brain has now completely gone to mush.
No, absolutely. It's something that everybody probably does. No one shares it.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I do a lot actually. And it's kind of what pays the bills, and that's fine. Yeah. If I'd have to do that to allow me to do other things, creatively and test days and stuff like that, then fine, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like if I get, say, 10 days ecom work in the month, I'm like, great, all my bills are paid. Yeah, like cool, and then the rest is like
2 other weeks then to do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I think a lot of stylists as well, years ago used to be like, oh my God, I want to be in fashion, like flick their hair. And you'd be like, yeah, but the money's in the, like, the easy money's in the still life fashion, because it's, no one's bugging you. Yeah. Like you can just like crack through and earn relatively the same money now. In times gone by, it was more to be on fashion sets. Yeah, I just don't know. Maybe because I'm slightly chilled out, but I'm like, I'd rather earn money the easier way. If there's an easier way, and then I, like same as you, I can have a day doing creative stuff, or come and do podcasting stuff, or do something like creative outside of that, then
something to feed your soul a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than just like losing your mind over the same stuff day in, day out. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it's nice. I have like several different clients that all do still life fashion. So they all style it in a different way, and there's different teams. Yeah. So I could do a week of like 3 different clients, and I'm like, cool, I'm not bored, even though it's the same stuff really. Yeah. But if I was in one place all the time, I think I'd find it quite hard work.
I think I would as well, actually. Yeah. Being able to float between different teams and talk to different people each day I imagine that to be a lot different from the same people day in, day out. Yeah. Even if you love them, it's the same people. At least you get to talk to different people, like going other places. Yeah.
Do you do any other in-studio work, or do you just mostly do stuff on your own in your space?
You mean going out to other people? Yeah. No, I actually only shoot here now. Sometimes if the client needs it, I will go to them, but I'll pack up my stuff and just go and find a room at their place and work there. I don't particularly like that, because if there's an issue at all, I don't feel like I can fix it as easily as when I'm here. Yeah. Also, I don't take all my kit. I have to take a limited amount. So I definitely prefer working here, but I can see why a client would want you to go on site. Yeah. So if it means to get the job, then I do it. But But I do try and get them to send stuff here. A lot of them have got good now, actually, since I got the studio a couple of years. A lot of them are just sending stuff up all the time now instead of me. There's one that I used to drive on a weekly basis, I'd say, like a couple of hours there and a couple of hours back. It was quite a lot, but they send stuff up now, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good, because then you can manage your own time. I'm assuming you've got a deadline with like when you need to send stuff back and things like that. So, for sure. But that's kind of nice. You've got your own space, got all your kit here. Probably should say, actually, we are recording in your studio. Yeah, we are. So it might be a little echoey, but we have got some polyboards around. Yeah. I think it's nice that you've got your own space, and actually it's really malleable to what you need. Yeah, for sure. So like if you need to shoot, you could probably fit a car in here, actually.
I have driven my car in it.
Yeah. It's like you could shoot like anything, and then tiny as well. So it's quite good, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably want a little bit more space to do something like a car, just to get the lights around it and stuff. And the walls aren't great for a car. It's not ideal for cars, but you can get a car in it. Yeah. Gives everybody an idea of the size of the space. Yeah. I think there is actually We Buy Any Car just around the corner. They put the cars in it, so they've got the same size space. So I think they fit like 5 or 6 cars in here. Yeah.
Bloody hell!
I don't know how they
That'd
fit
be a tight squeeze.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, but
I'd be like scraping the walls and everything.
They haven't got anything in there. They've got a desk and that's it, and a heater. Yeah, it'll be cold, but it's a decent space. I'm really happy with it. I used to have one in Birmingham. So in my 3rd year at uni, I kind of got a bit bored of trying to hire out the studios and, sharing it with 3 years of students, and not just photography students. You had like other people as well who could use it. And the slots were like 2 or 3 hours, or, you didn't get much time at all. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I need my own space. So during my 3rd year, I actually found it wasn't that small, but a decent sized room that I could use as a studio. And the rent was really, really affordable. And I just thought, if there's ever a time to make a mistake of renting somewhere out, uni's a really good time, because I was working at the time. I worked in the studios as well at uni. And I had the budget to kind of rent somewhere out. It's literally a couple of £100 a month.
That's really good.
It was really, really good.
That's really good.
Yeah. So I took it and I had it for 4 years then.
Oh, nice.
So just having the space meant I go at uni and just spend more time on things. So like I said before, the exploded watch movements, that would take at least 8 hours to shoot. And they were really simple movements as well, which I wouldn't have been able to do at uni, because I would have had to pack up and, all that sort of stuff. And it would have been a lot of work to do at uni. So yeah, and that kind of just grew for me. And then when I moved to here, eventually, I found this space after probably a year of searching. Yeah. Small workshops in Leeds, small like warehouses in Leeds, all this sort of stuff. Constant daily search, and then this came up, and I was just like, yeah, for sure, let's just go for it. So
yeah.
But I had the Birmingham one up until I moved in here. So
that's good.
All through COVID, it was basically a storeroom for all my kit.
Yeah, yeah.
When I moved back to Cheshire, and then I moved to Nottingham for a year, and then I've moved up here. And all through Cheshire, Nottingham, all that, I had the Birmingham space, which I'd occasionally drive over to if I needed to. And then I just did everything carload by carload.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And I think people think that photography studios are just lights and a camera, but actually there's things like tables, there's blocks, there's like what some people would call just a drawer of shit, but we know like kebab sticks. There's scissors. There's like
you just accumulate crap.
Yeah, that is it. It's 100% crap.
But like once you've had it for 4 years, you just come in with like you say, just a thing that you found on Amazon or something. You just come in with a box or something and put it down, and like 4 years of doing that, it just built up to a lot of stuff. And at the time, I used to work with a lot of Instagram. I call them Instagram brands of watches, not great quality watches, this type of thing. And I had like over 100 watches in my studio as well.
Wow.
I mean, they were rubbish. Yeah. They were not good, but I had boxes and stuff. And when I moved, I hadn't worked with the companies for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I just threw them all out. I was like, I'm not driving, not using my car space for these watches that I don't like, and B, no one else is going to buy, or, I'm just going to throw it. So they went in the bin outside. Yeah,
I mean, again, quite a lot of product does go in the bin.
Yeah.
Like
it's really bad.
It's really bad, but there's certain things as well, if you've been sent samples that are gold seal sample, which is like, there's like different levels, isn't there, of samples? So often they want you to shoot with a gold seal sample that's kind of like then taken off to, I don't know, exhibitions or whatever, like look how much like amazing product we've got. Then often those will either go to like charity shop, they'll kind of do a donation thing at work, so like you can pay £2, take whatever you want, or they go in the skip.
Yeah.
And like it's so bad.
Yeah.
But I guess they must factor that in.
Oh, they must do. Yeah.
You know.
I have so much in the studio still that I was sent to do some work with, and then they never arranged collection again. Yeah. And I don't want to throw it out, so I've got boxes full of stuff, and there's boxes everywhere. That's what we used on testing. So, but I just don't know what to do with it. Yeah, and it's difficult, especially if it's like beauty products. Like they're quite hard to resell if they've been opened. Yeah. And there's other bits, like we say, if it's samples or if they're not wanting them back, and then if they're not arranging collection. But then it's also that thing of, as soon as you chuck it away, someone will ring you and be like, that thing I sent you, can I have it back? And you'll be like, Yeah, I need to put it in my T's and C's that if it's not arranged to be picked up within however many months, it will be donated, thrown, or sold or something. For sure, because otherwise it just sits here and you can say, actually, you did sign saying that I could do that. Yeah. But I just don't ever want to kind of get in trouble for it. So I think that's probably the best way of doing it, right? Because otherwise you're going to end up with your unit being full of, be a storage unit. Yeah. And then essentially you're paying for clients to store their products. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. There's one guy I met who is an interiors photographer, and he's got such a great business model. And he, if the client wants like a chair, for example, he'll charge the value of the chair to the client, and then he says, and then I'll store it here, and when you next want it, you can rent it from me instead of buying it again. But then he uses that chair to rent out to other people as well, and he has a wall full of like interiors, chairs, like tables, coffee tables, mugs, bottle, everything that he's got clients to pay for, and then he rents them out to A, the client again, and B, other clients. That's interesting though, because things with like interiors as well, it's not as fast moving as like fashion. So like there's certain things that will come back round within like 5 years. So that makes sense if you've got the space. Yeah. Like
That's quite clever, actually.
It was a good idea.
Yeah.
When I talked to him about it, it's like, that's smart. But you
Yeah.
can't really do that with products.
No,
the actual
no.
product itself. But for props, it's a really good idea.
Yeah. Have you ever seen any of the prop houses?
I haven't actually. No.
Oh my God. They're like a Aladdin's cave.
Yeah,
They're
but-
insane. Like,
Is there one nearby?
there's one in Manchester.
Right.
I'm not sure about in Leeds. I don't think there is. There's a couple in London that are massive.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of us stylists have got like little bits of props that we hire out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to the one in Manchester is like Aladdin's cave. Love it in there. And then went to one in London. And I was just like, holy shit, there's so many plates. There was like, it was for food really. So there was backgrounds, cutlery, glassware, like everything, probably from the 1920s to now.
Right.
So it's almost like a museum as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, insane.
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine that.
I could have spent hours in there.
Yeah.
I quite want to do it myself, but you know, you've got to have the equity to do it, I think, initially.
Yeah.
It's more expensive than what you think, like, you know,
No, I can
sourcing
imagine
stuff.
that. Do people kind of like hire a space that they can put their own stuff, like props in there? So say like if you had some props that you wanted to hire out, would you go to one of these places and have your own little area that you can put stuff in, or?
No, so like they're one big company and then you just you get an account with them and then you can like hire anything.
Right,
within
okay,
there.
it works like that.
Yeah, so it's a bit annoying like in the summer when everybody's doing the Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of wants the same thing. So you kind of have to be first. And if not, then you're just left with what's left.
Yeah.
Like, so they don't
That's
kind of work
interesting.
online either.
You have to go and see it.
You have to go and see it.
I imagine there's too much to put online. Though.
Yeah, you're talking
It's
like
just
millions of products.
Yeah.
It's fine, I guess. I've got like a little section on my website that's just like little bits of props that I've got. But then if you start cataloguing it, I've probably got 200 items already.
Right, okay, wow.
So, and that's, sorry, Nath, I probably shouldn't have admitted to that's the amount in the house. But that's things like spoons and like little glasses and, you know, things I find that I see that I think, oh, actually, you know, there might be a job that needs a certain turkey platter, or I can go to a job and say, oh, okay, we're doing food. I've got X, Y, Z. Do you want me to bring it with me? That's an extra $5 a day or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of that tack on thing. But yeah, it'd be great if there was like a kind of, have you ever been to Red Brick Market? I think there's one in Liverpool and there's one in Sheffield. I'm not sure if there's one here.
I've not been to one, no.
But they have like a massive warehouse and then everyone rents like a tiny space, similar to what you were saying. But that would be quite cool if it was prop hire.
Yeah.
Stylists could just rent out their whole, like a little space each. But
it's just keeping tabs of whose is what then.
Yeah,
so when
exactly.
it comes back, you wouldn't know where to put it because obviously you're not going to be there to say, that's mine.
And also like with labelling stuff and things like the actual, I think the cataloguing process is probably way more intense than what people think. Like it's great fun wandering around there being like, I've got a brief, I need X, Y, Z and like shopping basically.
Yeah.
But cataloguing it must be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like,
I can imagine that. It's just, Again, it's just something that they built up over the years.
Yeah. It's probably started in a cupboard,
you
know, or in someone's garage or something. But yeah, it is nice. It's nice to go and like see stuff and then you're like, oh, okay, maybe if we get that and then that might work. But in typical stylists, we all get more than what we actually need.
Yeah.
Because you never quite know.
No.
And this is why I bought a van.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to be able to store the stuff you don't need on the shoot.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's there for.
I think you always need that sort of thing though. Like just the just in case moment of shooting, because it would be so bad to say, oh, actually I did see that, I could have had it. You know, it's just so bad to do that. So I don't really like working with like limited amounts of stuff. I want to kind of have more, and then I feel like, well, going back to what I said earlier, I probably feel more creative if there's more things there. Yeah, because I can come up with some ideas of, you know, of what to do it with. If there's like 3 or 4, I'm just like, great, we've done one set with that. I don't know how to change that now.
Yeah. And like, if you've say got like 4 products or 4 plinths, shall we say, and then you're like, right, how do we make this any different? You put a plinth on top of another plinth, great, but that might not look great. And that
you're
can
just
be
limited on what you can do rather than coming up with creative ideas with it. So.
And that gets frustrating as well then, because you're like, and not everything looks great just on a tabletop. Like it maybe needs a bit of height or whatever. But yeah, I always think maybe it's just a stylist way of, like, a creative way of thinking, but I always bring more.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it. You have to.
Yeah. I mean, you say this. There was a time where I took a 6-foot Christmas tree into Manchester and I had to park in a multi-storey car park, and I was on like the 12th floor and the lift broke.
Oh no.
And I was like, that tree's staying in the car, it's not coming down.
Yeah.
And the client was like, oh, have you got the tree? And I was like, if you come with me to come and get it, you can have it. And she went, nah. And I was like, I thought that might be the case. If there was the lift, then yeah, fine. That's classic Manchester though, isn't it? Like trying to even park in the city. But yeah, I think having more to be creative is
easy. It flows more, doesn't it? The whole shoot just flows a bit more when there's more stuff around. So
yeah. How do you find working on your own, and how do you find your clients and stuff? Is it mostly via your social media? Is it, I'm not asking for all your little secrets, but like, is it mostly like you were saying contacts from uni?
Yeah.
And do people just find you on social media and just kind of like send you a little message, be like, hey?
Yeah, I mean, I have had no work through Instagram directly.
Really?
No. Like no one's ever seen my work on Instagram and gone, oh, actually, they, get in touch with me that way. LinkedIn is great. I always say to anybody who's not a creative or who is a creative and not on LinkedIn that they need to get on LinkedIn. Just the reach you get with the posts just goes so far, and people interacting with stuff. And when I first got it, I used to think like it's really rubbish Facebook, which it kind of is, although Facebook's gone very downhill since I got it. But when you get to know LinkedIn and like how to use it and what it does, it's actually very, very good.
Yeah.
For professional use and stuff. So there is that, and then just word of mouth mainly for me. Really, that's kind of what I'd say was the biggest thing for me. I just think the second someone recommends you, it puts so much trust into your potential client, like with you. So when you're pitching, you don't really have to get over that barrier of like, I can do this, trust me with your product or your shoot, all this sort of stuff that's kind of like gone when someone else has recommended you. There's always some like little bit of it, but it's massively reduced. And I just find it flows so much easier when you've been recommended by somebody else. So that's kind of mainly where I go from.
Yeah, I think you're right. Recommendations are great. I think LinkedIn the tide has turned on LinkedIn, and I think it's getting better. Mm-hmm. Years ago when I was on it, I was like, this is full of middle-aged men.
Corporate type thing. Yeah.
Like, it was not for creatives, but I think as soon as you find your pool of people, it's really good.
Yeah. Once you've got a few connections in that area, it is great.
Yeah. So. Do you find it quite hard to keep up with like regular scheduling, regular posting and stuff? Yeah,
I'm awful for it. There'll be times where I've just realised I've not posted in a few months or whatever. I kind of think that's one of the problems I find with product photography. Like, I did a project last year that took me a month to do. It was a week of shooting, like 3 weeks of editing. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing else that I can be posting. Well, there's a bit from before, but then after that, I'm just like, great, I've got a couple of posts here.
Yeah.
But it's not a regular thing I can keep up with. So this year I'm hoping to do shoots which are producing less images in a day, but I can kind of turn it out a bit quicker. So instead of it being like a 1 month project, it'll be 2 days shooting, 2 or 3 days editing or something. Yeah. And I've got a good bank of photos that I want to share at that point. Yeah. So that's kind of like the plan this year. Yeah.
It's interesting how like you're changing your plan. I think people think that you've just got to stick with one way of working, and actually it's okay to evolve and change and make it work better for you. Yeah. If you're finding that it's not quite working, or you maybe want to change it up a bit, it's okay to do that.
Yeah, and just try it out.
Yeah.
Because with the images that we created on our test, we probably get 5 or 6 photos in a day, possibly. Yeah, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
It takes ages to get things like looking really good. Yeah. And then you've got the lighting and all that sort of stuff on top of it after you've done your job. But the photos were just amazing from it. And I just think the value of those photos would be far more to somebody than if I tried to churn out, 15 in a day, because they'd look scrappy. They wouldn't be perfect. It just wouldn't work as well. So I'm looking to slow down this year and produce like higher quality content that's more valuable to clients. Yeah. So kind of like working less, but getting paid the same, really. Yeah, and giving them more value. Exactly, that's the thing. Yeah, and hopefully you can get over the barrier with a lot of people when they see the value you give them with
Yeah.
the higher quality stuff, working in a slower pace
Yeah.
rather than panicking and trying to do everything.
It's funny you should say that though, because I had a client who expected me to do 20 shots in a day, creative. And I was like, look, we can aim for half because it was like chaos. But I think if you've got like a mood board or you've got like shots that people want and you've got it all out and you can literally tick it off and kind of group in stuff that's all on similar kind of style, you can get a bit of pace and still have it looking nice. But that balance is like a knife edge because sometimes you like the product just won't sit right, or you know, it's more difficult to light, or just stuff hasn't shown up, you know, and that all impacts how many you can shoot in a day. And I think it's quite hard, especially when it's creative stuff, it's hard to do more than 5 in a day, because especially if there's not that pre-planning. If it's pre-planning, then it's
a bit different.
Great.
You know what you're doing. You go into it, the game plan type thing. But you've got a few days before to start thinking as well. Which is why I like the detailed briefs instead of coming in thinking, you know, what have you?
Someone's just dropping a bag of products, just like, come and shoot that, and you're like, what the fuck? I think it's hard to find that balance and kind of explain that to clients as well, because some of them just see a number. And then they see how much you're paying for it and they're like, no.
Let's go with someone else.
And you're like, but this is going to make you more money in the long run. And I think that's it. Like, as soon as you can kind of explain to them, okay, this image is going to make you, say it sells like an image of shampoo, and that's going to make them, I don't know, I'll pull a figure out my arse, like 10 grand, but it's costing them $1,000 to shoot it. Well, it makes sense, you know, like.
But if you paid someone 500 quid or whatever,
you might
only make
like $2,000
like, from it. It's a big difference. And I think the images of the power of photography actually has that, and video as well. I don't deal with video. That's a different thing.
It's a different beast.
Content in general has such power online because at times with, I always think with watches, I know I bring everything back to watches, but people can't necessarily go and see the watch. You know, if it's like a limited edition watch, there's 100 of them in the world or something. Not everyone's going to be able to see this. So the images that you put online need to show everything in the best way possible. And that's what people are buying it with. Or buying it from. So, I think photography is actually very important. And more important than people realise. And
I think we're all, you notice when something's bad, but you don't notice when something's good. And that's like kind of the, you know, like classic with AI, and you're seeing like people with 10 fingers on one hand and stuff. And like people notice all that, but then the good stuff, they're just like, it's a picture, it's fine, whatever. And actually like it's the good stuff that takes the time and, but it's just a given that everything's good. You know? And not everything is. I mean, to keen eyes, not everything is. But that's interesting. That's interesting how like you're changing the way you work and stuff. I think that because you work here as well, it's more malleable. You're not playing to anybody else's like studio rules, if you will, in quotation marks. Like you can be like, I'm in the studio on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, drop product off or whatever, you know. I think makes life a little bit easier for you. You can manage your own time a little bit better. Absolutely.
I do on the site, I do kind of rent out the studio space. If someone sees it and they want it, great. But I win so many jobs because like I can say, you know, I can fit you in like in a couple of weeks time or something. If it's booked up for a month, which I know some studios get that way, I'll be having to fit my work around other people coming in and shooting, and it just doesn't quite work with me yet. I need a bigger space with somewhere else that I can work in. If that ever happens. But I just like the space for myself, to be honest, right now. I don't have to tidy up as much either.
That's true. No one's like, where's that bloody thing gone?
At the end of the day, I'm like, job done. Put the camera in the bag and walk out the studio.
So how do you find working on your own? Do you enjoy it?
I do. I always kind of think, you know, it's nice to work with a team and all this sort of stuff. And I would like to work with more people in the studio, but there are times where I just need to get my head down and do the work. And with watches, there's some projects that you need to just really focus on what you're taking pictures of, because you might be using the case from one and the strap from another photo and put a face on from another one. You need to kind of keep on track of what you're doing. And if I was sat here talking to someone while doing all that, I'd definitely lose track, and something will go wrong. And sometimes you haven't got that long with the product either. If it needs to get sent back, you haven't got time for mistakes. So for me, there are times where like I really just need to put on a TV show on my laptop and have it in the background to have somebody there and just get on with it. So but like at the end of last year when we did our test, I said to you that I want more people to be in the studio, and there is just a little bit of loneliness sounds really sad, but like it is. And just being here by yourself, like day in, day out, it can get a bit lonely at times, but I kind of love my job, so I'm not complaining. But
it's having that balance as well, though, like with being able to bounce ideas off of people. And like when we did that test, we didn't shut up the whole time. We didn't. It was like, I don't know, 6-7 hours of just gassing the whole time. I don't think I
don't really remember taking the photos.
No, same. I don't even know where they came out. But sometimes that's so nice because the ideas are just there and they come out as you're talking, so they're almost subconscious. And that's like kind of nice too, because then you're not overthinking it. And then you step away, take a breath, like, actually we'll just move this and this, and that's it. I think that's quite nice to be that relaxed, to be able to do that and stuff to come that quickly. But it's not it. I get what you mean, because sometimes when I'm working at home, like, I don't know, prop shopping or whatever, it sounds glamorous. It's really not. It's a lot of like messaging clients, like, can I have the credit card number? How much is the budget? Like, you know, this is not, you've put this on the list, but it's gone out of stock or whatever. So I think it's quite nice to work in teams as well, in small teams. Can get overwhelming if it's like a big team, like we were saying earlier. But it is nice. I think this year I'm looking to kind of work with more people in general. I love editing. I'm decent at it, but I prefer shooting and doing the photography side of it. So this year I kind of do want to work with editors a bit more, and not pass that on to somebody else, because there are times where I'm shooting and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing here. I can fix that in Photoshop because I blah, blah, blah. But I'm semi-reluctant to let go of that right now. And it's really hard to give that part of the creative side to somebody else. So that's something I'm going to try this year and just see how it works. Because I think as well, you saying like you can look back at the image and be like, oh yeah, I need to do that, and it jogs your memory. I think when you book a retoucher or an editor, you've got to kind of then note down, everything. Put a layer on Photoshop, be like, can you do this, 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 and this? And, have that communication. Because again, they're creatives like we are, so they'll see something and maybe see it in a different light to you, and they might edit it in a slightly different way to what you're thinking. For sure. And I don't know, it's fun to work with editors. I enjoy working with researchers, but because I find the job fascinating, because I cannot do it. Like, it blows my fucking mind. But it's when you get into Photoshop properly, you can do all sorts in it. Like literally anything, and you fake whatever you need. There's some images I did last year, and I took the photo of the back of the product, and it was wrong. So it was a prototype and it wasn't right for launch. So they sent me their CAD drawings and they said, can you kind of come up with something that looks as it is? And I spent hours on it to like manipulate the back of everything. And I don't think you'd really know that what I sent was literally manufactured from cut and paste, changing perspectives, shadowing and all this sort of stuff. So I was quite proud of it, but you can just do anything. It's crazy. Is Photoshop something that you learn at uni, or do you learn it before? Or it's just been like because I've been doing photography for so long, it's just like something that's grown with me, and you kind of figure out, oh, you can do this, and then you learn to do something else, and you're like, oh, I can merge those two things together and do this, and it just grows just through years of using it. So I won't be able to say where I particularly learned it from, but it's just always been there, and I've always used it, and I've got fairly good with it. So it's one of those skills that I think most photographers know how to do with some of it. And then when you see a retoucher, you're like, holy shit, like you're another level. it's insane what I've seen researchers do. And it's insane what I've seen photographers do with Photoshop.
Yeah.
I'm like, it literally blows my mind. And now Capture One's got like certain tools in it as well that it didn't used to have.
Yeah.
So that's even more insane. So just to fill any listeners in, Capture One's like a program where you can shoot directly into and kind of, you can manipulate certain things. It's got kind of lighting levels, stuff like that.
It's limited in terms of like retouching that people think of in Photoshop, but in terms of file handling, file management, color correction, all that sort of stuff, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's just one of my tutors, the one who told me I wasn't creative, he used to, whenever someone said like, what program should I use, he was like, Capture One, just go and get a Capture One, I don't care, just go and get it.
Yeah.
And then someone said like, but why? And he's like, it's like Lightroom but better.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't explain why, it just is. And that's how he always used to say it. And now I use it a lot. I'm just like, yeah, it's like Lightroom but better.
Yeah. And I think it's like industry practice to use Capture One.
Yeah.
Not many people use Lightroom in studios and stuff. Mostly it's Capture One.
Yeah. So I kind of have a bit of a thing for Capture One anyway, because I love the brand Phase One, which is the camera system I shoot on. And Phase One made Capture One.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the camera that I have is made by the same company that made Capture One. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think I don't even like add things up like that. Like, of course, someone who makes a camera would make the program to shoot onto.
Yeah. Well, not always, I don't think. But yeah, because they were so specialised when they came out, I think they just wanted their own system. And I don't know how true the story is, so I won't say it. But like, there is a bit of a story about why Hasselblad isn't compatible with Capture One.
Oh, okay.
I might have just heard rumours, but it's quite funny if you know it. So yes, but Hasselblad have their own now.
Oh, okay.
So theirs is called Focus, but that's not great apparently.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I think this is it. Like, once you get in because I know there's like a nuance in like certain people like Nikon, certain people like Canon, and you know, and often again, if you go into a big corporate studio, they often use Canon. There's Capture One. There's like certain regulated things that they use. Yeah. I think it's just easier because then most people know how to use it.
Yeah.
They just walk in and use it. I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, lots of different people have lots of different. Some people will be like reluctantly using a Canon at work, and then like, actually, I like Nikon. And I'm like, tell me the difference. Like, I don't know the difference in it.
To be fair, they are actually laid out quite differently.
Are they?
Yeah. Because I used to be a Nikon shooter, and whenever I picked up a Canon, like, I do not know how to use this. Because some don't have two wheels on, from what I know. Okay. Some have like a back wheel, and I couldn't get my head around it at all. And
so it's literally like user face.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it is in terms of like focusing and taking the photo, fine. But changing the settings takes so much longer when you don't know the kit. Yeah. So yeah, I couldn't ever get my head around Canon. So I still can't. I think if I went back to Nikon as well, I found it difficult initially because I have my big Phase One. I didn't feel like I needed a big DSLR. Yeah. And I wanted something I could take on holiday if I needed to, or, you know, it's good enough for clients and all this sort of stuff. So I moved to Sony. Pros and cons to that. I still like Nikon though. But I would never go to Canon. Yeah. So why do you like your Phase One? So, where do you start? So back when there was film, there was different formats of film. You had 35mm, medium format, and then large format. 35mm is what everybody knows with the, you know, point and shoot kind of cameras, all the way up to Leica and all that sort of stuff. And the quality is great when you have a good camera and a good lens. It's great. But with medium format, you had a sensor, or it's not a sensor at the time, it was film that was significantly larger. So if you took the same photo, similar crop, you'd have more detail in it. And there were many brands of different film cameras which were medium format. I have a Hasselblad. So I know I just said that Focus wasn't great, but I do love Hasselblad as a brand. And I love my 500cm. But one was called Mamiya, and Phase One bought Mamiya. Oh, okay. And they took their body and they added a digital back to it. Oh. And then Phase One developed their own digital body to go with the digital back, and that's how it's come to where it is now. So my Phase One is a medium format digital camera. So although it's still 40 megapixels and it was made in 2009, it blows my Sony out of the water in terms of quality. Like there is no comparison whatsoever with it. And just being able to work on the level of detail that I have with it is just insane. I can zoom into, I think I was working on something like 1,200%.
Fucking hell.
Zoomed in, and I can see pixels and I know which ones I need to manipulate to like make it perfect. And it's just incredible to work with. So yeah. And the system's nice as well. I do the thing called focus stacking, which is really hard to explain over a podcast and not watching a video, but it allows the whole product to be in focus. And phase one has a system on the camera where you can say between this point and this point, I want 75 photos or whatever. And it knows the aperture and the distance it will need to change everything. You click go, it does all the photos for you.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah.
So like, I'll try and explain focus stacking a little bit, but when you're shooting something that's like jewelry, sometimes to get the whole product in focus, you have to shoot the front of the product. I'll simplify it. The front of the product, the middle of the product, and the back of the product. And then you have to stack all the images on Photoshop and layer them up basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
But sometimes that can be really labor intensive because you're zooming in and out and then you're changing that. Yeah, it can just become a bit of a mess if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So that's actually really helpful.
It is good. I learned on my old phase one with a manual lens. So I did have to take everything and move the lens like by millimeter by millimeter.
Yeah.
Probably less than that. I got very good at it actually. Not to sound big-headed, but I did.
That's just from all the practice of it. Like
it was. Yeah, because I had this really wobbly tripod as well, so I had to be like really still and like just move the lens ever so slightly. So going to this system was just like so nice. I can click go and then just go and do something else for a bit. Go and make a tea or whatever.
Yeah, nice. So, and how do you find the little Sonys as well? Because I hear really good things about them.
It is good. I mean, at the end of the day, Sony make all of everybody's sensors anyway. So Sony make the sensor in my phase one.
Oh, okay.
I believe. So they make everybody's sensor. So you're not losing quality in that sense. And the lenses are actually very, very good now. I think the camera's okay. I think there are times where it misses focus. I don't know why, but I'll take a photo. I'm like, why are you out of focus? Like, especially with the e-com stuff, I think it struggles with the white background and the product and stuff. So I didn't get that as much with my Nikon, but the size and everything's nice. It's nice and lightweight. Yeah, going on holiday with it's better than a big clunky thing. Yeah. But now when I go on holiday, I want to take my film cameras and my Sony and all this sort of stuff anyway. So do you know what? I've got a Canon G10. So like proper old, I don't know, that must be like 2010 maybe, that. Yeah. Maybe a little bit younger, a little bit older. Yeah. And we take that on holiday because literal point and shoot. Yeah. I've got like an entry level like SLR, but I like the little one because it's literally like boom, done. It kind of feels a bit vintage. Yeah. Why am I saying like my this is from when I was a kid. Yeah. But when we used to go out like partying or whatever, digital cameras just came out. So like everyone would have a digital camera rather than their phone. Yeah. So it feels a bit like that to me, which is probably vintage now. Yeah, yeah. And it's easy to use. Like it's not too complex. You don't have to like worry about like manual focus and everything else. And also my other half can like join in and just use it. Because I think sometimes when you get into the higher level of cameras, they become so complex. If you don't know what you're doing, it's a waste of 10 grand. There's no point in even looking at it. Yeah. But when we got the SLR, he started playing around with it and he was like, this is great. And like doing videos and everything on it. Yeah. But they are like, I think some of the tech is still, like I say, really good from 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, depends what kind of thing you want. Yeah, and it depends on the look. I actually want to make a post on LinkedIn about this, but my biggest pet peeve is when people say that the camera doesn't matter, because I'm like, it does though. It changes everything. I mean, I'm really lucky to have three very, very nice cameras. You know, with phase one, I've got the Hasselblad, I've got a Leica, and the Sony, so that's 4. I shoot so differently on all of them, and if I was doing street photography with my Hasselblad compared to my Sony, they'd be totally different images. The way I work is different. The method's different. The images that come out is different. So I know you kind of capture the same scene. Yeah. But when you then trying to like create a look, the camera matters. So if you're using a vintage camera, which is like point and shoot, you get a point and shoot look, which loads of people seem to be going for now anyway.
Yeah.
And if you use a professional one like that's my Sony and stuff, it takes a lot of editing to get it to look like point and shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably not even that possible, to be honest. It still looks like it's done on a good camera.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right though. I think it's the look, like what people are enjoying and what they think is a good image.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a bit of a novice, it's kind of, yeah, like I'd call myself a novice in the camera world, really, I guess. I like the point and shoot because it's easy.
Yeah.
The images look good enough for me. Like, and also they've got they're starting to get a bit of a vintage feel to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. If you put up the same scene and shot the same scene with like 5 different cameras, you're going to get 5 different images.
Yeah.
It's not
even
like,
with the same photographer.
Yeah,
for sure. I know what the people mean, like just capturing the moments. That's the thing that matters. But I always said that just try different cameras. Don't just stick to the one that you have and think that's like that's it, because your style would change with a different camera, and you might find something that's actually working better for you, or better for the clients. You know, you might pick up film photography and find that you actually really like the look of the images that you create, and that might be perfect for some campaign that a big brand wants, for example.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll come to you for it because you're the expert on it. But I kind of always say to branch out a bit with cameras and try it if you're able to.
Yeah, I think it's important to, like you say, just try different things. That's the whole creative process as well. Like trying different things and then
seeing what works. Yeah.
My favourite phrase at the moment is flinging shit at the walls, see what sticks, because you just don't know. Like, and that's the whole point of being creative, is like trying stuff. Yeah. And just being like, okay, didn't like using that. Couldn't find my way around that. Enjoyed that. Love what the outcome of this is. You know, and just seeing what works.
Yeah. And the more wide your experience is, allows you to draw on that when you have a client saying, this is the sort of thing we want. You're like, oh, great. Well, actually, I did this project and this project, and we can use like these elements from both and combine them for, you know, what you want. And you're not able to do that if you don't play around a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I've got one last question for you.
Okay.
What inspires you?
Oh, that's a good question. I at the moment, and this is like it's probably not a great thing to say, I just want to feel successful. I'm really hard on myself professionally. And the kind of idea of success is, you know, just, it's different for everybody, but I just don't know when I'm going to feel like I've made it as a photographer. I'm constantly chasing after the next thing. So I want to feel successful in the area that I'm in. And right now that's to be I've said this for a while, actually. I want to be the go-to watch photographer in the UK. Yeah. I want to be the person that people come to for any watch campaign that they, you know, bringing out watches and all this sort of stuff. I want to be known in the UK for that. So right now, that's what's inspiring me this year, is to kind of build on my watch photography and get some new contacts in that area as well. Because it's actually quite a small community. Everybody knows everybody, I think. Yeah. So once I kind of get in there a bit, I think it'll go well. But yeah, so that's
good. That's a really good aim, actually. And I think you're right. Success is different to lots of different people. It means lots of different things to lots of different people. Like my version is like, I can pay for my mortgage. Yeah. We can go on holiday. Maybe I'll get some tattoos. Like, cool. That's success. Yeah. And I think, like, you know, running your own business, you're wearing 20 different hats at the minimum. Yeah. And it's hard work. And it's stressful. Time. Yeah.
I just want that. I think my idea of success is that stress kind of is eased off a little bit. Yeah. Along with, you know, what you just said, which is the important thing, and just being able to go on holiday and spend time with family and friends and all that sort of stuff. But I just want the stress to ease off a little bit and know that it's going to be okay. Yeah. It's a bit unknown still.
Yeah. So how long have you been freelancing for?
5 years.
Yeah. Give it another
6 years, I think.
Yeah. I think I hit my I can chill a tiny bit when I hit 10 years.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So not to give you not to put Debbie down on it. No. But I think that once you're established enough and you're settled where you are as well, that makes a huge difference. Because halfway through my career, I moved from the south to the north. Yeah. And it takes a year then of slogging to people to get to trust you, like we were saying earlier. Yeah. And get to know who you are and recommendations and things like that. So yeah, it does take time, but like it will come.
Yeah.
And it's like just keeping doing those little steps for now to get you where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that future you, it will be like, oh, thank fuck I did that like 3 years ago. Thank God I like kept pushing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really weird because like, I mean, I actually, literally just before we recorded this, I made a LinkedIn post. I got asked by Broncolor, which is the brand of lighting that I use. I'm actually an ambassador for them for the distributor in the UK.
Oh,
so
wow.
the distributor's Transcontinental, and I work with them as an ambassador for Broncolor. So I love the brand. I would recommend them to anybody with a budget. And Broncolor asked me to do like a how-to blog post for their website on photographing watches, which got released just before Christmas. And I said in the post just now, like back when I was at uni, I remember wanting to be a watch photographer. That was all I really wanted to do. I remember looking at Broncolor and wanting to shoot with Broncolor because it's like height of precision in lighting. And this project was like both things rolled into one and then shared on a global scale.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But when it was shared, it's just like, yeah, cool, next thing.
Yeah.
And like back then, that would have been like incredible. You know, someone said back at uni, like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to shoot with Broncolor and photograph a nice watch for.
Yeah.
I think that was incredible.
Yeah.
But like now, because everything's like, my mind shifted.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, cool, next thing, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to just slow down and think, actually, that was cool.
Yeah. And also, it's really hard. I don't know whether this is a British thing, but it's really hard to go and celebrate your achievements.
Yeah.
Because you look back and you think, oh, don't be such a dickhead and like be like celebrating that you've done this. But actually, other people are looking at what you're doing and be like, oh my God, that's awesome. But actually to take that and be like, actually, it was bloody awesome.
Yeah.
And take that like moment,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
to kind of sit in it. It's quite, it takes time to learn to do that.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
it really does.
Yeah.
And then also not to compare yourself to other people.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a hard thing as well.
I have a little note on the bottom of my my computer because during COVID it got really bad, and it says don't base your happiness on comparison to others.
Yeah.
And it's like a daily reminder for me to just like, you know, you're on your own journey. That's fine. But I've never taken it off because I just sometimes I need it.
Yeah. It's so true though. It's so true.
Yeah.
And going back to your thing about success means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And like it's taken on what matters to you and what you define as success.
Yeah.
And, you know, but yeah, definitely sit in that like glory of this Broncolor thing because that's incredible.
It was quite cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, thanks.
But thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks for letting us record in your space too.
That's okay.
And let's get testing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, follow and share as it really helps this little podcast out. And if you have found value in the podcast and you have the means to, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. This will help keep the podcast going. Join me next week for another fantastic guest. Bye!